You asked for a sign. You wanted a word. You've been searching for direction, waiting for confirmation, hoping for clarity. Well, mark this day, because this is it. This is the moment you stop questioning if you're ready and start moving as if you already are. Too many people waste their lives waiting for the right time, as if success sends out invitations. It doesn't. The moment you were born, you were already given permission to fight for your life. You've been through enough storms to prove you can survive. So why are you still standing on the shore watching the waves instead of setting sail? Every challenge you faced wasn't there to destroy you. It was there to sharpen you. The disappointments, the betrayals, the failures, they've all been training you for this very moment. You've been tested, not to show your weakness, but to reveal the strength you didn't know you had. That strength is in you right now, waiting for you to stop doubting and start acting. The truth is, the longer you hesitate, the heavier fear becomes. Fear feeds on hesitation, but courage, real courage, lives in the split second when you say, "Enough, I'm moving." And you don't have to have all the answers to move. You just need enough belief in yourself to take the first step and trust that you'll figure out the rest along the way. You want change. Then you have to be the change. That means showing up when it's inconvenient, speaking up when it's uncomfortable, and refusing to shrink yourself to fit the expectations of people who don't see your value. You're not here to live someone else's vision for your life. You're here to build your own. Stop waiting for someone to open the door for you. Kick it down. Stop waiting for them to see your worth. Live in a way that makes them regret ever doubting it. The life you want will not be handed to you. It will be earned through persistence, resilience, and an unshakable commitment to your vision. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right where you're supposed to be, and this exact moment is your launch point. Every excuse you've used until now, burn it. Every limit you've accepted until now, break it. The reason you're still here after everything you've been through is because you're meant to go further. You're meant to rise higher, and the only thing standing in the way of that is whether you decide to start now or keep hiding behind someday. So mark this day. Remember this moment. The line between who you were and who you're becoming gets drawn here, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Here, now, get up, move, speak, build, fight, live. Stop asking for signs and start becoming one. People often convince themselves that they have to wait until the stars align before they can begin something meaningful. They think they need more time, more resources, more confidence, or more certainty before they move. They put their dreams on hold because they believe there will be some perfect day when they will wake up and all the conditions will be ideal for them to start. But the truth is that day rarely comes. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances shift. Plans get interrupted. Opportunities expire if you stand still too long. The right time is not something you stumble upon. It's something you decide to create in the middle of imperfection. When you keep telling yourself you'll do it, when the time is right, you're secretly giving yourself permission to delay. Delay becomes a habit, and habits have a way of defining your life. Before you know it, months have passed. Years have passed. You're still in the same place, watching others move forward while you stay behind, convincing yourself they must have had better luck or better timing. But it's not luck. It's that they moved without waiting for permission. They acted when it was messy, when it was risky, when they didn't feel fully ready. Every great achievement began with someone deciding to start in less than ideal conditions. The entrepreneur who launched their business didn't wait until they had the perfect plan. They started with what they knew and figured out the rest along the way. The athlete who rose to the top didn't wait until they felt invincible. They trained through doubt and exhaustion. The writer who published their first book didn't wait until every page felt flawless. They wrote, edited, and learned through the process. If you only take action when everything feels safe, you'll never get anywhere worth going. Fear will always try to convince you to wait. It will whisper that you're not ready yet, that the market isn't right, that you need to learn more first. It will tempt you to keep preparing instead of executing. Preparation has its place, but there's a point where it becomes procrastination disguised as productivity. You start researching instead of doing, planning instead of practicing, dreaming instead of building. You tell yourself you're working on it, but really you're avoiding the discomfort that comes with stepping into the unknown. The discomfort is the signal that you're on the right track. Growth doesn't happen in the safety of your comfort zone. It happens in the moments when your hands are shaking, when you feel exposed, when you don't know for sure what will happen next. That's where you meet the version of yourself who can handle more than you think. Waiting for the right time robs you of those moments. It keeps you in the version of yourself that never has to find out what you're truly capable of. It's not that conditions don't matter at all. They do. But conditions are rarely perfect, and even when they are, they don't stay that way for long. Markets change. People change. Life changes. If you hinge your future on waiting for some flawless set of circumstances, you're letting outside factors dictate the pace of your life. You're giving away your power to the unpredictable instead of choosing to act in spite of it. Think about the moments you've regretted most. More often than not, they're not the moments when you took a chance and failed. They're the moments when you stood still and watched an opportunity pass. You wonder what could have happened if you had just taken that step, just sent that email, just raised your hand, just walked through that door. The pain of regret is far heavier than the temporary discomfort of action. Waiting doesn't protect you from risk. It quietly drains your potential until you realize you've been standing in the same spot for too long. The truth is, your mind will rarely feel completely ready. That's because your mind is wired to keep you safe, not to push you toward growth. Safety feels good, but it's deceptive. It convinces you to stay in familiar places even when they're not serving you. Readiness is not a feeling you wait to have before you act. It's a feeling that grows because you acted. Confidence is a product of experience, and experience comes from doing, not from waiting. When you move before you feel ready, something shifts inside you. You prove to yourself that you're capable of figuring things out in real time. You stop being someone who just thinks about change and become someone who lives it. Each small step you take chips away at the fear. You realize that uncertainty doesn't destroy you, it shapes you. And the more you face it, the less power it has over you. The world does not pause until you feel ready. Time keeps moving whether you do or not. The right time is a story you tell yourself to justify hesitation. You might be telling yourself you're waiting for the economy to improve, for the kids to get older, for your schedule to free up, for the perfect opportunity to knock on your door. But while you're waiting, others are moving. They're starting businesses in uncertain markets. They're building side projects between shifts. They're training before sunrise or after midnight. They're making progress not because it was easy, but because they refuse to let imperfect timing become an excuse. If you want to create something meaningful, you have to be willing to start while it's messy, while it's uncomfortable, while you still have doubts. That's not recklessness. It's courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. It's looking at the reasons why you could fail and moving anyway. The person who acts in the face of uncertainty will always be ahead of the person who waits for certainty to arrive. When you stop waiting for the right time, you stop living in a constant state of almost. You stop saying, "I'll do it when," and start saying, "I'm doing it now." You start meeting opportunities halfway instead of expecting them to come all the way to you. You understand that your dreams won't chase you. You have to chase them, even if that means running into the unknown. And the more you do it, the more you realize that the unknown isn't as dangerous as it feels. It's simply the place where your future is waiting for you to show up. You don't need the perfect timing. You need to decide. The moment you decide to start, you take control back from the fear, from the doubt, from the external factors you've been blaming for your inaction. Decision is the real turning point. Once you make it, you'll find ways to adapt, to learn, to grow. The resources you think you lack start to appear because you're now moving towards something instead of standing still. You begin to attract momentum simply because you're no longer idle. The right time is a myth that keeps too many people from living the life they're capable of. The right time is now, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the doubt, in the middle of not knowing how it's all going to work out. Because if you can start now, under these conditions, you can handle what comes next. And when you look back, you'll see that it wasn't perfect timing that made the difference. It was your decision to move without it. People often underestimate the value of their own struggles because when you're in the middle of something painful, it's hard to see it as anything other than a setback. You look at the disappointment, the loss, the rejection, and you think it's evidence that you're failing. You think it's proof that you're not good enough, that maybe you were never meant to have the thing you were reaching for. But what you don't realize in those moments is that struggle is shaping you in ways you can't see yet. It's teaching you things that will only make sense later when you're stronger, wiser, and far more capable than you were before. Every hardship you've endured hasn't been wasted. It's been the training ground for the life you want to build. Think back to some of the most difficult seasons in your life. At the time, they felt unbearable. You questioned whether you'd get through them, but you did. And even if those moments left scars, those scars became proof of your endurance. They became reminders that you can survive the worst days and still move forward. Those experiences didn't just test you, they built you. They developed resilience, patience, and perspective. They made you more aware of what you can handle, and they gave you the confidence to face the unknown again, knowing you've already walked through fire before. Struggle has a way of stripping away what's unnecessary. It forces you to let go of things that are holding you back, whether that's the approval of others, the illusion of control, or the belief that life will always be predictable. It teaches you to adapt when your plans fall apart, to stay steady when things are uncertain, and to find strength in places you never thought to look. The very things you saw as breaking you were often the same things that were building you into someone who could handle the weight of the opportunities ahead. The truth is, the easy seasons in life rarely produce the kind of growth that changes you. Comfort doesn't challenge your limits. It lets them stay where they are. Struggle pushes you past those limits. It forces you to dig deeper than you thought possible. It demands that you learn new skills, develop new habits, and sharpen your thinking. It makes you resourceful. It teaches you to find solutions when the obvious ones aren't available. And it reveals a side of you that you wouldn't have met otherwise, a side that is stronger, more determined, and more capable than you believed. Every person who's achieved something meaningful has a backstory filled with moments they thought might break them. The athlete who wins the championship spent years training through injuries and losses. The business owner who finally found success endured failed launches, bad investments, and sleepless nights. The person who finally feels confident in themselves once lived through years of doubt and rejection. None of those victories came without a price, and that price was paid through struggle. It's not the struggle itself that defines you. It's how you respond to it. When you're going through something hard, it's easy to wish it away, to hope for a quick fix or an escape. But if you can shift your perspective, you'll see that the very thing you want to avoid is the thing that's equipping you. It's sharpening your focus. It's teaching you resilience. It's making you patient enough to wait for the right opportunity and strong enough to hold on to it when it comes. Without the lessons struggle teaches, you wouldn't be able to sustain the success you're working toward. You might get what you want, but you wouldn't have the strength to keep it. The moments of frustration and pain are where your character is forged. That's where you learn discipline. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. That's where you learn how to keep moving even when you don't feel like it. That's where you prove to yourself that your emotions don't control your actions. You do. And every time you push through a challenge, you reinforce that belief. You start to see yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as someone who can face difficulty head on and come out stronger. Even the failures you've experienced have value. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. It's where you learn what doesn't work, where you refine your approach, where you discover the gaps in your knowledge or your strategy. Without those failures, you'd be walking blind. Struggle provides the feedback you need to adjust and improve. Every wrong turn teaches you how to find the right path. Every closed door forces you to find another way in. Every setback strengthens the determination you'll need for the next round. And sometimes, struggle isn't about teaching you how to get something. It's about teaching you what you don't need. It helps you see which relationships are supportive and which are draining you. It shows you which habits are helping you and which are holding you back. It reveals whether your goals are truly yours or whether they were handed to you by someone else's expectations. In stripping away the unnecessary, struggle leaves you with what truly matters and the clarity to move forward with intention. When you embrace the idea that struggle is part of your preparation, you stop resisting it as much. You stop seeing it as a punishment and start seeing it as a process. You understand that every challenge you face is making you stronger for the next one. And you begin to trust that you are exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to know. That doesn't mean you have to enjoy the pain or pretend it's easy. But it does mean you can respect it for what it's doing for you. The strength you have right now didn't come from the easy days. It came from the battles you didn't think you could fight but fought anyway. It came from the times you were knocked down but chose to get up again. It came from the moments you had every reason to give up but found one reason to keep going. And that strength is still being built in you every time you face something hard. The very struggles you wish you could skip are the ones that will prepare you for the life you're working to create. Fear has a way of disguising itself as logic. It tells you to wait until you have more experience, until you feel more confident, until you know exactly what's going to happen. It sounds reasonable, even protective. But what it's really doing is keeping you in place, feeding off the time you spend hesitating. The longer you pause, the louder it becomes. It builds walls around you, not to keep danger out, but to keep you from stepping into the unknown. Fear thrives in stillness. It needs you to delay, to second guess, to stay where it's safe. The moment you take action, something changes. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The shadows that looked so threatening start to shrink because now you can see what's actually there. Action doesn't eliminate fear immediately, but it forces fear to adjust to you instead of the other way around. The more you move, the more you realize that the scenarios you built in your head are far worse than reality. The danger you imagined loses its power once you're in motion. Courage isn't about waiting for fear to disappear. If you wait for that, you'll be waiting forever. Courage is acting in the presence of fear. It's saying, I see you, but you're not the one in charge. It's stepping into the arena while your heart is racing, while your hands are shaking, while your mind is still listing all the reasons you shouldn't do it. Courage is a decision, not a feeling. And the more you decide to move, the more your courage grows. Every time you act despite fear, you rewire your mind. You prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. You replace the belief that fear means stop with the belief that fear means go. Because if it scares you, it probably matters. That shift is powerful. It changes the way you approach challenges. Instead of seeing fear as a signal to retreat, you see it as a signpost pointing toward growth. Action also builds competence, and competence is the foundation of confidence. You can't think your way into being confident. You have to earn it through experience. You can read every book, take every class, and gather all the advice in the world, but none of it will give you the certainty you're looking for. Certainty comes from doing. It comes from making mistakes, learning from them, and trying again. Each time you take action, you gain a little more skill. And with each bit of skill, you gain a little more confidence. That's how you break the cycle of fear. The mistake most people make is believing they need to feel confident before they start. They see confidence as a prerequisite when it's really a result. Waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting to get stronger before you start working out. It doesn't work that way. You start weak, you start unsure, you start afraid. You build strength, certainty, and confidence by doing the thing you're avoiding. The first steps will always be the hardest. That's because you're moving against the weight of your own hesitation. But once you start, momentum kicks in. Each step makes the next one a little easier. The problem is, many people never get past the starting point. They let fear talk them out of even trying. They tell themselves the timing isn't right, the risk is too high, or they're just not ready yet. What they don't realize is that readiness is a byproduct of action, not a condition for it. Fear also has a way of magnifying the possibility of failure while minimizing the possibility of success. It makes you focus on everything that could go wrong, rarely on what could go right. Action flips that balance. When you move, you start to see opportunities that hesitation kept hidden. You meet people you wouldn't have met, gain insights you wouldn't have gained, and open doors you didn't even know existed. Fear closes your world, action expands it. Sometimes the fear isn't about the unknown itself. It's about what happens if you fail. You worry about what people will think, about the embarrassment, about having to start over. But the reality is failure is rarely as catastrophic as we imagine. It's feedback, not a final judgment. The people you admire most didn't get there without failing along the way. The difference is they didn't let failure be the end of the story. They treated it as part of the process, and because they kept moving, they eventually succeeded. The more you act in the presence of fear, the less fear controls you. It doesn't mean fear disappears completely. It just loses its ability to dictate your choices. You start to recognize it for what it is, a natural response to stepping outside your comfort zone. Instead of avoiding that feeling, you learn to carry it with you. You let it ride in the passenger seat, but you don't let it touch the steering wheel. Taking action also exposes you to reality, and reality is often far less intimidating than your imagination. When you stay in your head, fear has endless room to grow. It can create scenarios that are bigger, darker, and more dangerous than anything you'll actually face. The moment you act, you start replacing those imagined outcomes with real experiences. And real experiences, even when they're challenging, are always more manageable than the exaggerated fears you create in your mind. One of the most liberating realizations you can have is that you don't need to see the whole path to take the first step. You don't have to know every detail or anticipate every obstacle. You only need to know the next move. When you take it, the path ahead becomes a little clearer. And if it doesn't, you still learn something you can use to make a better decision for the next step. Progress is made one move at a time, not all at once. Courage grows in direct proportion to the actions you take. The more you do, the more you expand your capacity to face what scares you. You become someone who doesn't wait for perfect conditions, who doesn't let uncertainty hold them hostage. You start trusting yourself to handle whatever comes because you've proven through action that you can. That trust becomes a force that drives you forward, even in moments when fear tries to whisper that you can't do it. Fear wants you to think you're alone in feeling the way you do, but you're not. Everyone experiences it. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who move forward isn't the absence of fear. It's their relationship with it. The people who grow, succeed, and create the lives they want have simply learned to take fear along for the ride without letting it dictate the destination. And that's something you can choose to do, starting with your very next step. You can't live your life waiting for someone else to see your worth before you start acting like you have it. Too many people shrink themselves to fit into spaces that were never built for them, just so they can be accepted, approved, or liked. They tone down their voice, hide their ideas, and suppress their ambitions because they're afraid of being judged or misunderstood. They think that if they play small long enough, eventually someone will notice them and invite them to step into something bigger. But life doesn't work that way. Nobody is going to hand you permission to live fully. You have to claim it yourself. When you make the choice to live as if your value is already recognized, you stop seeking validation from people who don't even know how to measure it. You stop adjusting yourself to match the comfort levels of those who feel threatened by your potential. You stop waiting for the world to tell you that you're allowed to dream bigger or want more. You understand that your worth is not determined by the applause you get, the opportunities you're given, or the approval you receive. It's determined by the way you show up for yourself, the standards you set, and the boundaries you hold. The truth is, the people who truly respect you won't need you to shrink in order to feel comfortable. They won't see your ambition as arrogance or your confidence as a threat. They'll celebrate it, support it, and challenge you to rise even higher. And the ones who feel uncomfortable when you start owning your worth are the same ones who benefited from you playing small. The moment you stop doing that, their reaction will reveal where they stood all along. Owning your worth is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about living in a way that matches what you know to be true about yourself. If you know you have talent, you stop hiding it. If you know you have leadership in you, you stop waiting for someone to hand you a title before you step into it. If you know you have a voice that matters, you stop silencing yourself just to keep the peace. When you act from a place of worth, you stop making choices based on fear and start making them based on vision. People often fear that if they stop seeking approval, they'll end up alone, but the opposite is true. When you live in your worth, you attract the kind of people who value you for who you are, not for how much you're willing to bend for them. You stop wasting time trying to convince the wrong people of your value, and instead, you invest your energy into spaces where you're already respected. You create a life that reflects your truth, not someone else's version of who you should be. There will always be people who try to minimize you, whether intentionally or not. They might question your choices, downplay your achievements, or remind you of your mistakes as a way to keep you in place. If you're not grounded in your own worth, it's easy to let those voices sink in. It's easy to start doubting yourself and making decisions that keep you from standing out too much. But when you're grounded, those voices lose their power. You hear them, but you don't absorb them. You recognize that their opinion is a reflection of their perspective, not your value. Your worth is not negotiable. It doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's opinion, mood, or treatment of you. It's a constant. The only thing that changes is whether you choose to live as if you believe it. And when you do, everything about the way you move through life shifts. You stop accepting opportunities that don't align with your goals. You stop engaging in relationships that drain you. You stop saying yes to things you don't want to do just to be liked. You start making choices that protect your energy, challenge your growth, and honor your potential. Owning your worth also means holding your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no without guilt when something doesn't align with your values. It means speaking up when something doesn't feel right, even if your voice shakes. It means walking away from situations that undermine your value, even if it means stepping into uncertainty. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're gates to let the right people in. And when you know your worth, you stop apologizing for keeping those gates locked to the wrong ones. It's easy to underestimate the power of the way you carry yourself. The way you speak, the way you stand, the way you respond to challenges. These things signal to the world how you expect to be treated. If you carry yourself like someone who doesn't believe in their own value, people will respond accordingly. But if you move like someone who knows they bring something important to the table, people will either rise to meet you or remove themselves. Both outcomes serve you. Living in your worth isn't just about confidence, it's about responsibility. You have a responsibility to use your talents, to share your voice, to create impact. When you play small, you're not just depriving yourself, you're depriving the people who could benefit from what you have to offer. You're withholding your contributions because you're afraid of how they'll be received. But when you operate from a place of worth, you understand that what you have is not just for you. It's for the people, places, and purposes you're meant to impact. The shift happens when you stop thinking of worth as something you earn and start seeing it as something you already have. You don't have to wait for a promotion, a relationship, or a certain number of accomplishments to validate it. You can choose to live as if it's true now. And the moment you do, you start making different choices. You stop moving through life asking for a seat at the table and start building your own. You stop trying to fit into spaces that don't value you and start creating spaces that do. When you reach that point, you no longer chase people or opportunities. You align with them. You stop competing for scraps of attention or validation and start operating from a place of abundance. You begin to understand that you're not here to be chosen. You're here to choose. And that choice begins with deciding every day to live as if your worth is non-negotiable.